Hello, friends. It's Nikki, and welcome back to my messy bookshelf. So today, I have another stack of books here. I have another stack of books here because I did say that I would share my backups for my 50 before 50 challenge. And I've been thinking a lot about this and how I want to work the rules for my challenge. And I realized that I did not share those in part one or part two. But I did mention I had some backup books. These are books that were on the original rough copy list, and I couldn't narrow it down quite well. I couldn't narrow it down, and I had a hard time narrowing it down. So these are the books that were left over after I settled on the books that are on my 50 before 50 list. So I will share those with you. One of these books was supposed to be on the 50 before 50 list, so um, I'm going to have to do something about that. So I will have to take one away from the 50 and include this one because it's one I've always said I wanted to reread. So I'll share that in a second. But the first book that I have here is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. And I saw the movie when I was a very small child. I don't remember anything about it other than that it was about a princess and she's kidnapped and there are adventures, there's a hero and many different frolicking adventures. And it's a cult classic and I've always wanted to read it, so The Princess Bride. Would like to get that one done. This is the one that was supposed to be on my 50 before 50, Gilgamesh. I read it far too soon. I read it many years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, and I didn't understand a lot of what I was reading. Not to mention, this translation is not that great. So I would like to find a better translation and get through this one. I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to fit this in for 50 before 50, but the Epic of Gilgamesh, the most ancient known work of literature. So, an epic poem about a demigod, Gilgamesh, and has a lot of similar themes and just story devices that the Bible has. So I was very fascinated when I did read it the first time. So I really want to come back to this more mature. I'm a grown up now, so I can try to read this at least. The next one I have here is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Tolls, and this one is one that hasn't been on my shelf for many years, but it's been here for about a year or two. And I've heard so many lovely things about this book, and I really want to get to this one. This is about a Russian aristocrat who is placed under house arrest by the Bolshevik regime, and he is on house arrest in a hotel in Moscow. And I am so sorry, there is a fly in here, so if it comes back, I have dogs, okay? And they scratch on the door because they want to come in, and then they sit there and consider if they want to come in after I open the door for them, and then the flies come in. Anyways, Gentleman in Moscow, yes. I've heard many great things about this and have always wanted to read it since I heard about it. And yeah, we have that one. So he's living in this hotel in Moscow, and I believe the whole book is centered around his relationships with the other people living in the hotel, and specifically one who is a young girl or a young woman, and he helps her in some way or has to try to help her. And that is all I know about this one, but I am actually looking forward to this one. And the next one is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. And all I know about this one is that it's super gut-wrenching, and it's about an unlikely friendship in war-torn Afghanistan. And yeah, sure, sign me up. More gut-wrenching books. We're on a roll. I've been reading more and more very gut-wrenching books, and I've been doing okay. I'm still here. So, all right. The next one, I did not have Thomas Hardy on my 50 before 50 list. And that was, I just had such a hard time narrowing these books down. So I have here Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is one I read the first two chapters of before, and then I set it aside. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but I moved on to other things. So quickly distracted. This is about a woman who inherits a farm in, I want to say, the late 19th century. I don't think it says on the blurb. It does not say, but I believe it's the late 19th century, and she inherits a farm, and she decides she's going to run this farm by herself. She is a headstrong, independent woman living in those times. And there are 2 or 3 men who consider themselves her suitors. And there is jealousy and things happen. And I don't know any more than that. I didn't make it more than 2 chapters in. So I need to read a Thomas Hardy. All right. The next one is actually one there. I actually have kind of a funny story about this one. So I have Outlander, the first book by Diana Gabaldon, and I hope I said that right. I was reading this and also listening to the audio on my commute, which is kind of something I used to do a lot when I was working full time and having these long commutes. I would not want to stop reading my book, so I would borrow the book and listen from where I left off in the book as I commuted. And yeah, if you are unaware, this is a book about a British nurse who, a British nurse in World War II. And I don't remember if it's during the war or right after the war. She and her husband travel to, I think it's Scotland, and she finds some sort of portal and is transported back in time to, I want to say, I don't even remember what time period, 1500s, 1600s, but she is transported back in time by herself. And there is a whole series of books following this woman traveling back in time to be with these old Scottish lords. And yeah, there, if you are unaware, there are a lot of spicy scenes in here. Not something I usually go looking for, but if it's in a book, I'm fine with it. But I happened to be driving, and I think I was driving home from work, and one of those scenes hit. I don't know what happened. My audio in my car went up really loud. It was summer, and my windows were open. And yeah, the person next to me heard several seconds of this very spicy scene as I was stopped at a stoplight next to him and looked at me crazy. And I was mortified, and I was trying to pause the book. And of course, when you are frantically trying to do something like that, that is when you fumble and you can't figure out how to work things you work every single day in your life. So that happened, and I was mortified, and I decided I'm going to set this aside for a little bit. And it's been years since that happened. Like, I want to say my daughter was an infant when that happened, and she is now 10. So yeah, that was many years ago. So I would like to get back to that. I just the first book. I mean, if I could get through the series, that would be wonderful. If I discover that I love it that much, but the first book, because I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it, and I was just so embarrassed. So yeah. The next one I have here is another Shakespeare. I have here The Tempest. I don't know anything about this one. This is not one that I hear many people talking about, but I believe it's about a shipwreck. And I am here for anything to do with shipwrecks and exciting voyages at sea. So, yes, The Tempest. would like to get to that one regardless. I mean, I want to get to all of these regardless. Alrighty, the next one I have is a children's classic, and I have here Black Beauty. I don't even know. Anna Sewell. Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. This is a book that's been recommended to me since I was a very small child, but because I loved horses so much, everybody used to recommend it to me. But they used to tell me, oh, yeah, you get to hear about this horse who gets mistreated and hear about how terrible he had, or how terrible some of his experiences were. And for young me, I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And now I think it's time I finally get to this. And it's been sitting on my shelf for a little bit. So, I mean, this version, obviously, I bought it for my daughter, but I want to finally get to this. And then I have here Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This is one I bought very early on after it was published. And it's been sitting here because I struggle with certain content. And I think we can all understand why. This is a horrible, horrible time period in our history. And I can deal with war and violence in books and, brutality and stuff in small doses. But something that I really struggle with is when families are forcibly separated and children are taken from their parents, or parents are dragged away, or what have you. And that is something that was super prevalent in the slavery system. So I've been avoiding this one for a little bit, quite a bit. Um, but I think I am strong enough to get to this one. Yeah, I also have Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad on my list. I don't have a copy of that. Another one I've been avoiding for a very long time. And all I know about that one is that it's about the start of the slave trade, if I'm not mistaken. I just know that it's supposed to be a very difficult read. And yeah, just ripping families apart always really affects me. And not that this isn't in any way similar, but I think that the reason I have a hard time with it is because I've been forced to be separated from my children because of the work that I do. And sometimes I've had to be forced to go do said work because I don't want to leave my children, which is why I retired. Not that this is any way close to what these people experienced, but it is a trigger for me. It is a trigger, and I just hate it. I hate it. But I'm strong enough now. I am strong enough now, and I want to get to Heart of Darkness and the Underground Railroad. Alrighty. I think that is mostly it. I think I have one more that I don't have a copy of. Oh, yes. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. A book I would like to return to after almost 25 years. I read this in high school and I hated it. I hated it. And I think I hated it for all the reasons why it's such an important book. I hated the way they treated the characters. I hated the way I forget what the characters' names were. I remember there was Lenny. I don't remember the other character. But it's about two friends who are laborers and travel around, I think, the South, the American South, looking for work, and one of them is developmentally challenged. And just seeing the way he was treated, and also the way people didn't understand as much about those types of situations and conditions, it was rough for me as a teenager. And yeah, I would like to return to it as a grown up, But yeah, those are the books that I have. I think, what was that, 12 or 13 books? So these are backup books because these are all books that were on my master list that I had, and then I had to narrow it down to 50. I want to read these books anyway. However, with a backup list, I am actually having a dilemma here, and I would love to hear what your thoughts are. I don't want to just allow myself whenever to switch out books because this is supposed to be a challenge. So, what I think I am going to do is allow myself maybe one, maybe two swaps from my 50 list, and not to be in the same year either. So, I think I will allow myself. I know there's two books in particular that I am thinking I might have a hard time with. One of them is because it's one I've wanted to read for forever, and I have suddenly learned that maybe not recommended for people with arachnophobia. And um, spoiler alert, I am terrified of spiders. Like, absolutely, absolutely terrified. I don't like reading about them, hearing about them, looking at them at all. At all. So that was Children of Time. So I'm still going to give it a go, though. I think I will try to push through. I got through Lord of the Rings and I got through Harry Potter. So if it's worse than those books, I might have to set it aside. And then the other one was Tale of Genji, because we know how I feel about Genji as a character, and I would like to look past that and read the book. But yeah, I am thinking one or two allowable swaps, because what I don't want to happen is to be unable to read all these books that I wanted to read anyway whenever I'm in the mood for them, and be waiting around for a time when one of my 50 books is not jiving with me and I decide, oh, now I can read one of these books. I hope I am making sense. I hope I am making sense. And also, I want to keep it a challenge for myself. So, I want to make it slightly hard, you know? So, yeah, here we are. I would welcome any suggestions of what to do about backups, because I do want this to be challenging. But these are the books that I had on my backup list, and I would love to hear if you have read any of these, which ones you would read first, and any suggestions you have on how I should handle the backup book situation. But yeah, thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.